Welcome back to the Naked Truth Podcast. This is our second part of this deep dive into the importance of communication as it pertains to marriage financial outlook. Should married couples have joint accounts, individual accounts, a number of accounts? Well, let's jump right back into where we left off. And welcome back to the Naked Truth. I'm Pastor Robert.
And I'm Darlene.
And we want to start this particular conversation out now dealing with banking.
Yes.
And as we talk about banking, the overall thought about banking, again, is having to address it within the confines of the marriage. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get to so many thoughts concerning individual accounts versus joint accounts and credit card accounts and so on and so forth. But let me just ask you, when we're talking about this whole accounting, what were you thinking before we got married? Yes, we're 33 years in, and yes, we should know the answers to this, but I just want to know so that she can share with you. What were you thinking?
So honestly, for me, just like I shared when we went through our premarital counseling, mm-hmm. and the question was asked of us, what percentage are you supposed to bring to the marriage? Mm-hmm. And I said 100%. And most people will say 50%. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to the accounts, my first thing was joint accounts. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours. Mm-hmm. That was just the mindset that I had, because I came into our marriage wanting to be literally one.
Amen. Amen. And we'll talk about prenups in just a moment. But for Darlene and myself, our story is we basically came into this marriage, both of us with nothing. So it's like to sit there and say that after 33 years that by some chance, and I'm just going to blame it on me, I lose my left brain and I say I'm done, I'm walking out the door. Well, Sister Girl is, according to state of Indiana and according to just what is right, she is due 50%. But that's not what we're talking about in this segment. I want to just share that when it comes to banking, there are so many ideas that are out there in the world. And again, with the naked truth, as it pertains to us, we want to always look at things from a biblical standpoint. Yeah. We do not want to look at things from what is the best practices of mm-hmm. the world. And so mm-hmm. when we're addressing banking, and when I'm talking about banking, I'm talking about this whole scenario of joint accounts, single accounts, credit cards. How do we take a look at that? And what should we, as marriage counselors, be advising others? And so first, I want to just let Darlene, she has something, I believe, from the scriptures to give us insight into, and then we'll move from there.
Right. So I just talked about what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours, and actually coming together as one. So I want to read from Genesis. Okay. Genesis chapter 2, I'm going to start at verse 23, and it says, "The man said, 'This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. That is why a man leave his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh.'"
Amen. Amen. And so with that in mind, that's how you bring this discussion of budgeting. Of banking. Mm-hmm. This is how you bring that discussion not only to a husband and wife, mm-hmm. but also if you're sharing with others. How do you deal with this subject mm-hmm. on banking?
Mm-hmm. So in just thinking about what I just read, being united together and becoming one flesh, it boils down to the couple and I would even say individually understanding that this is what God requires
Amen.
from us. Because at times, even though you're married, and even though you might be doing very well in your marriage, there are times that we as individuals can become very selfish
Mm,
and think of
mm,
ourselves and say, well, because I make more than you, I'm only going to put this amount in, and then I'm going to take the rest of what I make and create a whole nother account for myself. Um, but is that being honest
mm,
in your marriage? Is that being transparent
mhm,
in your marriage with each other?
mhm.
Is that what one
There you go.
looks like? Is that what united looks like?
Yeah, and that's the whole premise of the whole accounts. Again, we talked about budgeting. We talked about when we spoke of budgeting that there needs to be conversations that need to be made
Mm-hmm.
when it comes. The same goes with banking. There has
Mm-hmm.
to be conversations that need to be made when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to the whole banking process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, for this household, I have a business account because I own my own business,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
so not only do I have that business account, the only other monies that I have that are allocated to me is in our joint account. There isn't another account besides my business savings and my business checking. And so Darlene knows about that. She may not know the dollar amount, she may not know what is in that, but she knows that there is a business checking and savings at one bank, and there is a business checking and savings at another bank. She also is aware of and has access to the joint account. So both of us see what is in the joint account. And then there is another account in which she has. And so with that in mind, we all know what is in the, not in the accounts, but where there are accounts as they pertain to her and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to make sure that when you are discussing that with your loved one, that everybody is aware. Because here's the thing: when you start acting secretively in one area,
Yep.
it spills over to all the other areas.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to be united when it comes to your bank accounts
Mm-hmm.
and understanding what is there,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to be easily, subtly persuaded to
Mm-hmm.
and do other things
Mm-hmm.
that you feel are okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or the world will say, oh, that's all right. There's no
Mm-hmm.
problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just continues to grow, and then there's the separation. So
There's the separation, there's the distrust, there's the not being honest with each other, and if you will, lying. Because once you start doing that, you literally start lying about
That's
your
right.
finances. And unfortunately, when we talk about finances, when we talk about joint accounts and all of that, that seems to be a sore subject when we speak on these things, and when we talk to other couples about these things. Like, it's just one of those things like, no, I have mine and he has his, and you pay your car payment, I pay my car payment, you pay your car insurance, I pay my car insurance. When it's like, why can't you just sit down with that budget that you made and allocate both of your monies to paying all of the bills that you have from that one account?
Amen. And darling, let's just be honest. We're just sharing with you some best practices of what we have learned.
Yeah.
We've been married 33 years. We have been marriage counseling for 33 years. And so that's miraculous in and of itself. But what the Lord our God has demonstrated and shown us is that the people live in, I have an account, I pay my bills, because they don't understand the union, the one
Yeah.
flesh thoughts when it comes to the marriage. And so therefore, if they can easily slip into these separate areas, again, it spills over into the other areas. And you see it evident in all of the areas
Yeah.
when it comes to what a husband and a wife are supposed to be
Mhm.
joined in.
Yeah. Paul talks about how we are supposed to spur one another on.
That's right.
And I believe that is not only in love and in good deeds,
Mm-hmm.
but also just in life in general. We should be doing that
That's right.
for each other, spurring each other on to say, hey, come on, let's build this account.
That's right.
As we talked about in our previous one, for the future.
That's right.
Let's build this account. Let's make sure that we're being good stewards of what God has blessed us with. And so when we come together,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're not
Mm-hmm.
dipping and dabbing
That's right.
into that account without the other person knowing.
And so speaking to that, we have seen it. There's been evidence of those whom are in our sphere of influence where the communication isn't going on, and so
Yeah.
before one knows it, before the other party knows it, the account is empty. It is it is not to where it's supposed to be, and again, that causes division. That causes hardship to one or the other. I want to also speak to, when we're talking about these different accounts and the necessities of them. You can have multiple accounts.
Yeah.
You can have, as Darlene said in the last part that we spoke on, about her mother may have had envelopes for vacations, may have had this for that. You can have the different accounts for those different areas. What we're trying to get across in this conversation is the communication piece about those accounts. And no one, as you said, should be dipping in without the other one understanding, without the other one knowing. And so we want to make sure that the communication with the accounts is a necessity and is a part of the relationship.
Right. And you have to come together to decide what you want the accounts for. There is an emergency funds account. There is a savings account. There is a vacation account. There is repairs account, if you will. So it's all these different categories, all these different accounts that you can have. And again, that just goes back to the budgeting.
That's right. That's right.
So there are all these different accounts that you have, but again, you have to be in agreement with what accounts you want, how much is going to be allocated to each of those accounts as well.
Amen. Amen. Now, I did want to bring one thing up when it comes to the sharing of accounts, the sharing of the information of the accounts. And I only bring this up because when I was more of the manager of the accounts, my wife would, for special occasions, ask for particular monies so that she could either give me a gift or a child a gift or whatever. And I said from that moment on that we needed to be able to do that in such a way where I'm not being a helicopter person over the account, making sure that I'm seeing the monies come and go as it was an issue or a problem, but to be able to say, here's what's in the account, and as this is in the account, there's the freedom to be able to do this. Again, as communication is continually moving. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that as a part of our conversation this afternoon.
Yeah, and in being a part of our conversation, just sharing that was not an issue for me because at the time, Robert was the only one working, and I, again, was a stay-at-home mom. But even those times that I was working, I still would, ask him if we could go ahead and do that. And the reason why I would ask him is not only to respect him, but also because, again, Robert was and is the manager over our finances. So he knew exactly what bills needed to be paid, what things were coming down the pipe that we needed to allocate other monies for. And so it was just one of those things. I didn't just want to go in the account and take something out when that money is actually there for something else.
Yeah, and that's the communication piece
Yeah.
that needs to be going on in a marriage, because I think that diffuses a lot of arguments and so on and so forth if those conversations are being had for that same instance. Even if we were bringing in equal monies into the pot, into the joint account, and so on and so forth, those conversations need to be had, because people, and what we have seen in our counseling years, is that people will sit there and believe that a certain percentage or a certain amount is for their own use, when it is a collective pot for the use of the family.
Right, for the use of the family. Again, that goes back to, the decisions that you and I as adults make, how it affects not just you and I, but the entire family.
But the entire family.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Well, that is it for this particular topic. We do have another topic that we want to discuss, prenup agreements. I wonder what God would have to say on that particular subject. But come back, join us in part 3 of this episode. See you soon.
See ya.
Join us for part 3 as we continue to explore the marriage financial outlook. You won't want to miss Robert and Darlene's discussion on credit in marriage.